And now, coming to you live from the City of Angels, Los Angeles, California, it's the Sheena Metal Experience with your host, Sheena Metal.
Hi, and welcome to the Sheena Metal Experience, only on Parapod TV. Please look for us on the Roku channel and more. I am your host, Sheena Metal. I'm a psychic medium, an energetic healer. I'm an interfaith minister. I am now a 30-year talk radio host. My anniversary was yesterday in Los Angeles and beyond. I'm a creative and a performing artist and a paranormal survivor. And I come to you live from my home in Southern California every Wednesday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. This show is about spirituality. It's about creativity. It's about passion. It's about service. It's about humankind. It's about becoming and then maintaining being your best you in this big, beautiful world, and then inspiring others to do the same. And it may be my show. It is the Sheena Metal Experience after all, but that doesn't mean it's not always and forever your experience. My guest today is a wonderfully talented writer, performer, producer, author, spiritual being. And I love having her here. It's always a joy. Please welcome back the wonderfully talented Fiona Goodwin is here. Hello, my friend. How are you?
Hey, Sheena. Lovely to be here.
Good to be here. Always great to have you here. You are performing again in the fall, right? Doing your show again.
I'm doing the show again. It's gone.
You've managed to keep this thing alive for so many years, and people still are lining up to come. I think that is so wonderful. What do you think is the secret of its success? Like for you, what makes you think, you know what, it's time to do it again?
Right. Well, there's two different things. The first thing, of course, is about my own condition, what state I'm in, and whether I'm in a fit state to be out in public.
Okay.
I mean, in the sense that I think there's timing to everything, and I think that there are times to be quiet and there's times to be out. And I definitely have felt I had 1 year which I took off completely and just went into a cave, and I didn't do anything on social media. I didn't do any shows, and now I've come back, and I just think it's just responding to whatever you're being guided to do at the time. So it took a moment to get to feel, have I got when you go into yourself and you go out of the spotlight, you become a little bit more introverted, and the thought of then being out and being showing off is, you think, well, do I want to do that? Is that something that feels good to me? And at the core of me, I am such a show off. And so I do, but it's taken a minute for me to get back into the groove.
Okay. I get that. At the core of me, I am such an introvert. And so sometimes I have to talk myself into getting out amongst people. And I think when you're good in front of people, everybody assumes it's where you always want to be. But for me, it's something I do because it's a way to sort of take my gifts on the road and share with people. And I love every second of it. But I do understand sometimes you decide, you know what, I don't want to do it right now. I just want to work on my human life. And I think as artists, sometimes we forget to work on our human lives. The art always takes precedence. And it's so important that we remember that we're also here to have a human life that needs to be fostered. And that it's very important that we do that, right?
Absolutely. And I had to definitely, as an artist, and certainly in Hollywood and Los Angeles, everybody's doing something. Most people are up to something, and the competition is huge. And sometimes you just forget to take care of yourself because you get caught up in everything. And I needed to really take, my day job, I'm a psychotherapist, so I really had to build up my practice to make sure that I could comfortably support being an artist, which sometimes is very well paid and sometimes is not.
Yes. Oftentimes it's not very well paid.
I
Yeah,
don't like to say that.
right. You know,
It's a bad,
yes, yeah, yeah.
it's
Hard.
it's a bad affirmation to say it's not well paid.
Well, but it's not, but it's what you do for love. And so I
Yeah.
think in life, we always have to balance what we do for money and what we do for love. And then hopefully we find something we do for money that we also love. I mean, that's wonderful, right? And then you can
Yeah.
have different things. But I feel like I spent most of my life as an artist broke. And at one point I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. Like I wanted to follow the flow into something that where I could be a little bit more comfortable and love my life. And I love my spiritual life so much. I don't believe in accidents and I don't believe in letting my artistic life go. But I think we have to find kind of that balance. And
Right.
I
That's
feel
definitely.
fortunate to love everything that I do so that I
Yeah.
don't always
Me
have to
too.
panic, you know?
Yeah. Me too. I definitely needed to take care of both aspects, and I'm hoping that, going back onto the stage and doing the shows, I want to take more of the therapist with me.
Oh,
That
beautiful.
does, yeah. I mean, that energy,
Yes.
and
Yes.
I think that energy is what keeps me more authentic and less concerned about what people think about me.
I agree. And I was just going to say something right before you said that. I was going to say that, your quote unquote day job, right, is healing, but
Hmm.
also your work as an artist is healing because laughter is healing, enlightenment is healing. When you go to see a show, whether it makes you
Yeah.
laugh or cry, you get healing out of it because you learn something, you connect to something, you connect to other audience members, you connect to the performer energetically. Like I leave a live performance always feeling healed, and when I do a live performance, I always feel healed. So I
Hmm.
think that you're just taking it's everything is healing for you. It's just a matter of where you're placing your healing, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that um, I think the experience, and certainly you were saying earlier, why do people come back to the show? Why do they keep coming to it? And so there are some people I've seen it who've seen it like 7 or 8 times, and they say it's because they have an experience not just of my authenticity, but they have an experience of their own authenticity.
So beautiful.
And yeah, and it's fun.
Yeah. Well, that's the most important thing. I'm not one of those people who myopically believes. I was just talking to a performer about this on the show a couple of weeks ago, that I'm not one of those people who believes that every film you see, every song you listen to, you have to find yourself in it. I think
Yeah.
some things you just love and enjoy a story. It doesn't have to be about you. But I do think that in the same way, but it touches you. Every time
Hmm.
you are exposed to something or someone's life, even if it's a completely fictional character, something happens to you. There's healing that you haven't
Hmm.
had before, and it comes
Hmm.
from this beautiful place of connection. Everything is about connection, right? Every time you connect to something or someone, it changes them and it changes you. And
Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing about art, I think, is that you have
Hmm.
the ability when you do your show to connect to 100, 200, 500 people a night, and they get something from you that they take with them, and that may
Hmm.
influence, like they may decide to go see something else because they loved your show. They may decide to do something else in their lives or take a different path because they saw your show. I mean, everything we do affects everyone, right? And that's the
Yeah.
beautiful connectivity of all of us together that I love so much. And art can
Yeah.
bring that to you on a mass level, and it's so wonderful.
I think it's the universality, of our stories, all storytellers, and it was interesting because someone said to me the other day about, because my show's called A Very British Lesbian, and someone said, well, you're just going to get lesbians coming, and actually the experience of coming out to yourself is a universal experience. It's for everybody, and the idea of, whether someone is just wanting to be a little bit more outgoing, they want to be less inward, or they want to be more creative. I mean, the courage that it takes to come out in whatever form you need to come out is huge.
Yes.
And my story just happens to be another of those stories. But it's also in different countries.
Right. Right. Yes.
What I'm saying is that it's a fun romp through Europe, and
Sure.
if you
Well,
if
and
you
coming out is an interesting term, right? I mean, we
Mhm,
associate that with being part of the queer community, and certainly you and I are both part of the queer community. But I've come out of a lot of closets in my life, and they weren't always sexuality ones. That was one, but there were more waiting for me. And I
mhm,
think that the term, I always talk about coming out of the psychic closet and my mother coming out of her psychic closet. I think I love the coming out of the closet analogy because I think it really shows you developing a stronger connectiveness to yourself, right? And
mhm,
deciding I'm just the first important thing is you come out to you, right? And that's discovering something about you that maybe you didn't know or you didn't want to admit and you didn't feel comfortable with. And then the next thing is coming out to the world and saying, here's a new part of me that you may not know about. And I'm going to use it to help people. And, you know, and
mhm,
hopefully that inspires other people to do the same thing and become more connected to themselves.
mhm. Yeah, I think that I think also if you have a spiritual aspect to your life, you believe in the unseen, in what you
Yes.
cannot see. And
Yes.
so it's very interesting, I think, when we go on a journey of being, in a sense, very outward in the sense of performing, but
Mhm.
also then being very inward in terms of seeking the unknown, I mean,
Yes.
you must have a lot of experience of that. And
Sure.
I can
Yes.
imagine. I can't imagine what it'd be like to come out as a psychic. I've done enough coming out. I don't want to do any more. So,
Uh, I got to tell you, I was just talking to a client about this right before we went into the backstage area to do this show. It was the scariest one for me, and it
mhm,
was the one I had the least to fear. You know, the expression, right? There's nothing to fear but fear itself. I teach a workshop called that because I've noticed being a lifelong person with anxiety, we build things up so much worse than they are. And oftentimes, when we actually look at them, what we're looking at is not as scary as how we built it up. It's like opening the closet and realizing the boogeyman was just a coat on a hanger, right? We do that. And so for me, I had built up this whole idea that when I told people who I really was inside, nobody in the entertainment business would talk to me again. I'd never get work again. My shows would all get canceled. And you knew me before and after, and you don't think any different about me. Like nobody did. It was all this thing that I had decided from having this sort of internalized phobia of being in the entertainment business that I was just sure it would all be over the minute I was organic
mhm.
about who I was and authentic. Nobody cared. I think if anything, people were just happy that I talked about it. They probably always knew something weird was
Yeah,
happening and
it's
didn't know
so
what it was.
powerful. Yeah, it's so powerful I mean, to me, you seem more powerful than when I first knew you.
Thank
I
you.
mean, and you're so embodied and present. And
Thank you.
and I was talking this morning to someone about, the I I I have to work with my people pleasing side,
Mm,
and I do like to be liked. And I think having the courage to be disliked, and it's okay for people not to like you. I'm not setting out to be disliked, but I love the idea that the less I care about being liked or people being okay with who I am or what I do, the more I get to do and be whatever I am, rather
mm.
than minimizing myself. Or, I think I mean, I guess we keep coming out, don't we?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah, as we
different
find more
levels.
things about ourselves, we keep thinking, oh, well, I guess I'm mad. I guess I'm mad. I guess I'm, when I first started my psychic practice, I was like, you know what? I'm just this and I'm nothing else. And now, 6 years down the road, I look at the list of services that I have and I'm like, whoa, I just kept, spirit just kept knocking on my head like, hello, you also do this. Oh, really? So I think that's, we're always discovering more things about ourselves, and that's what makes life fascinating.
Hmm.
We're like an endless set of nesting dolls. We keep lifting up and
Exactly.
finding another one underneath. And I
Yeah.
think that is such a wonderful thing about our human existence here. that it's not like we turn 20, figure out who we are, and then the rest of our life is just playing out Groundhog's Day over and over again. Life at all ages, no matter where we are in life, new things are revealed and discovered. And then we get to share those things with the world. And then the people we've shared them with, hopefully pull off their own nesting doll and find the one underneath. And then they do the same. And that's how we all, our connectedness all affect each other.
Yeah. Can I ask you, when
Yes.
you do a session, like a psychic session, what are you looking for? Dead people? Are you looking for
I do medium sessions. That's mediumship.
Right.
Sure, I do that.
Right.
I do sometimes relationship stuff. People who want to know about their life path, their soul path. How are they doing? How do they develop their own gifts? It's really just kind of a free for all. I open up the time and you tell me what you need. And then whatever you need answers with, we consult spirit and then we get some answers. So I don't go into it with any expectations, just like I didn't go into today. Like I've interviewed maybe 10 times and we know each other personally. I never plan with you what we're going to do. I just wait for spirit to throw me something and that's where the show's going to go. So it's the same kind of thing. I'm not really big into controlling things. I used to be, when I was young, very into wanting to control my life. Now I'm very much about, I wake up in the morning and I just sort of let the universe tell me what I'm doing that day. And endlessly fascinating things are always revealed to me every day. And I try to encourage my clients to try to live a little bit like that, without so much expectation or so much like we are deciding what our life is. Well, that's okay. But we're just like little pea brain humans compared to the vastness of the universe. Maybe we don't need to we don't need to be in charge. Maybe it's nice to have something bigger than us that can help us to become more than we ever thought we'd be. Because I have to tell you, I have done more with this practice. I've become more than I ever thought I would be. And I'm sure you too, so many ways, when you look at your psychological life and also your spiritual life and your artistic life, you probably think, wow, I have become so much more than I ever thought I would be.
Yeah, I remember when I was a high school teacher in the UK, and I sort of thought that's what I'd always be. I remember thinking, for a while, I mean, before university, before I started working, I used to do a lot of busking, and I had this kind of idea of, maybe I'd be a singer or a whatever, and that never, I didn't have that. I didn't have that in my family at all. Everybody thought that was a stupid idea, and who knows? I probably wasn't talented enough anyway. But so there was that vague dream, and then, but I just thought life was getting up at 6:30 in the morning, going to work. I loved the work. I love working with kids, and then at nighttime you would just endlessly correct books, the children's books.
Sure.
And then it was back to the same thing every day. It was hard to leave because it was so routine and kind of safe, when you get into that environment.
Right.
But
that was healing too, right? That was I think being a teacher is a different kind of being a healer.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't know if we can talk politics or not. Can we talk politics?
Anything you want on the show. I have no limits for you.
I just thought the energy of listening to Tim Waltz and his energy, as a teacher and as a coach, I thought was so lovely, because you can't do that job for years and years. Well, you can't really do it. You certainly can't do a good job if you don't care.
Yeah.
So it was just, I really enjoyed yesterday hearing his, and the continued relationship that he has with students. And like, I have kids that still, that are in their 30s, nearly 40 now, who, who I worked with, when they were 13, 12.
Fantastic, right? I mean, that's how exciting for you.
Yeah, it's very
My mom
sweet.
was a kindergarten teacher when she was in her early 20s, right after she got her master's. And, when she was 75, 80 years old, she was still talking about these kids that had, changed her life in the late 50s. And she was still talking about them, and they had moved her. She never forgot any of them. And I think that's such a beautiful thing to affect lives. People always say, like, when I work with clients, I can't believe you remembered that. I'm like, I remember everything about all of you. That's magic. That's my job. Of course I remember you. And I think most teachers are like that too. They remember those kids, even if they never see them again. And I think that's part of playing into being something for the world, right? I'm sure you remember people that came up to you after shows and told you how much you moved them, or people that you worked with that told you a story about how something you said changed their lives. Like, if you're a person who's connected to the everything, right, plugged into the universe, you don't forget that stuff. That's the good stuff that makes everything worth it.
Absolutely. I remember particularly people coming up to after the show, people who'd been Christians and had exorcisms, to get the demon of homosexuality out of them.
Yes.
And there's more of those. I mean, a lot of those people just don't really do very well because they maybe never work through it. But it's so wonderful when you do meet people who say, because I do, I reenact one of the exorcisms I had when I do my show. It's very fun. And and people afterwards they go, oh my goodness, I thought I didn't know anybody else. I think because it's only when you can come out of that you look back and you go, wow, that was really crazy.
Let me ask you a question that I've never asked you, because you spent a lot more time in doctrined religion than I have spent in my life. What do you think it is about people having different sexual preferences and alternative gender identities that is so terrifying to people? Like, what is so horrible about wanting to love someone of the same gender that you would think somebody needed an exorcism? I mean, I understand all the Christian ideologies, and I get it. I get everything they say. But what do you think is at the root of that? What do you think is really, really that scary to them?
I mean, I think that because it's a terrifying thing to think about. When I first thought, goodness, I might be one of them, I just thought, this is horrific, and I think it's terrifying because, I mean, I guess I was scared because society told me to be scared. And it was, it's about the other, about being different,
Right. Sure.
But it's hard to know. I just think that we're all on the spectrum of something, of in our sexuality. And I think that it's very scary for people to think that, oh, could that be me? Or, and I noticed it's very interesting how, particularly when I go to the UK and I've got friends there, and they, not now, but when they had small children, I remember having to be very, very careful. I mean, I was out to them, but had to be very careful around the small children, that, the younger children, that they wouldn't hear the word lesbian or, the thought of, I mean, the whole woke thing has gone a little bit nuts, I think. And it has worked against us in many ways, because I think that people have got so rigid, and I'm just rambling now about the woke thing, because I understand why people get so upset about, because I think we do need to be able to be out and live our lives, but we don't necessarily have to bash people over the head with it.
No, I agree. I think everybody wants to, just because you are different doesn't mean you're not allowed to have a private life. Everybody's allowed to have as much privacy as they want in their life. And some people want different levels of privacy, right? Everybody's a little different.
Yeah.
And everybody has a right to decide they want what they want. And we can't bully people because they're not making a choice that we would make.
Right.
I think that's across the board for woke people. I also think that applies to, sometimes the way folks in the LGBTQI plus community treat each other. it's everybody has to make their own decisions for their own life. And it's not for any of us to say what somebody else does with their life or to decide somebody else has to be public about something.
Right.
Some people
There's
just
that
don't want to
one.
flat out talk about their relationships. I mean, I have been private in my life and I have been public in my life. And there are times when I have regretted publicly talking about relationships because once it's out in the public, it's a whole nother thing. And that has nothing to
Right.
do with, I felt that way when I dated men. I felt that way when I've dated women. It's not a sexuality thing. It's a me thinking sometimes private should just be private thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
But I'll tell you
Yeah.
what's great about the kids and the kids being woke.
Yeah.
So when I was in my early 40s, I did a talk show with two friends of mine who were former child actors. And it was a web TV show, and people called in from all over. The guy who put together was actually in the UK, so a lot of the callers were from there. And I mean, some of the things that some of those callers said, I mean, either about me and my weight or belittling my friends for being former child actor. I mean, it was ugly. And the
Wow.
first time that I got involved with YouTube influencers, so, 25 and under people, and I knew I was going to be on this morning show, I was dreading it coming out. I'm like, oh my God, the comments, it's just going to be about how fat I am and this. And I'm looking through these thousands of comments and nothing. And nothing. And now I work with these YouTube influencers who are
Wow.
mediums. And I look at all these comments and I see all their people and it's nothing. And every once in a while, there'll be something like a fat joke. And when I click on the profile, it's some old guy with a beard who's my age. So
Right.
there is something about the way this generation was raised that they don't automatically go to the lowest common denominator meanness.
Wow,
And
that's
I think
amazing.
that's kind of a magic thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
No, that's fantastic. Yeah, I
and
hadn't
there are
thought of it
a
like
few
that.
that are a little on the borderline, but for the most
Mm-hmm.
part, not even objectifying these two lovely 20-something girls I work with who look like Barbies. Every once in a while, somebody will say, oh, I'm in love with, or, oh, I wish she was my girlfriend. But I remember working with alongside gorgeous women on the Howard Stern station on the radio in the early 2000s and late 90s, early 2000s. And oh my God, some of the emails that we got, I mean, you would were scared to read them. So I think that next generation, well, two
Mm-hmm.
generations down from me, because I'm a Gen Xer, so there's the Gen Ys, but I think they're better, and the Gen Zs, and then whatever the next generation is. I think that they have really learned that it's not just about making fun of people, that you don't need to
Right.
bully people. And I
Right.
think it's going to change the whole world. I think when those kids take over the world, it's going to change everything. And
What you think people are going to become less judgmental?
I think people are going to become less mean. Yeah.
Wow.
I think these kids are less mean.
Wow,
And
that's a lovely thought.
I think just the percentage of comments that I look at, and there's one or two that's negative, maybe three, as
Mm-hmm.
opposed to when a show was done 20 years ago and it was just a flood. But then most of the callers were people my age. So
Right.
It makes me weep a little bit for my own generation, but it makes me very happy for what's coming. And
Right.
one of those kids is kind enough to change my diapers, and then all will be good till the end of my life. So I think they're just a kinder group of people, and I'm excited for them to become our doctors and our nurses and,
Wow.
and
Wow,
our
that's fascinating.
politicians and our judges. I think it's going to be
Uh-huh.
a beautiful world. Now, I think sometimes now they've become the politically correct police because they think they've been handed the gavel to fix what was wrong with the world. And I think it's gone a little too far sometimes, but
Mm-hmm.
hopefully, like all things, it'll swing like this and then it'll come back to something sort of normal.
Right.
But
So where
sorry.
I see an exception to that, so I'm not trying to be a negative nanny or whatever, but is where, for example, in England at the moment, there's huge, I don't know if you heard about there were three little girls in Liverpool in Southport, and they were having their little Taylor Swift themed party,
Mm.
and a 17-year-old guy came in, killed 3 of them.
Mm.
And it was, and it's, England has, you know, there are towns that are being set fire to, and it's because of the immigration and because the guy who did it, I actually don't know. I know that I don't know what his ethnicity was, but he's got a name that sounds very foreign. And so what's happened is people have assumed that he's, you know, and people are saying, oh, he came in on a boat, he came in illegally, he's not a legal immigrant, whatever. And so the country's kind of gone up in smoke for the moment. So I think, you know, this is just me bringing a lighter note to it.
No, I agree. And I think that is definitely a problem we have now, that there are some folks that just have gone a little crazy of all different age groups, and violence is out of control everywhere.
Yeah. Well, and places are suffering through, I mean, there's going to be, you know, climate change, you know, immigration, you know, people coming from other countries who, and we somehow have to be able to take people in, you know. I mean, the national health system, I'm sounding like a complete right winger now, but the national health system in the UK took a huge hammering, and that's what caused a lot of the, you know, has caused a lot of the trouble in the UK at the moment. I mean, there's a lot of it here, isn't there? Down on the border.
Oh, good. And everywhere. I mean, I think everywhere we are completely and utterly at each other's throats right now. And I look at Facebook, and every other post is somebody hates somebody. And it's so extreme that sometimes I look at the posts on Facebook and on Instagram, which is where I mostly am, on those 2 places. And for a minute, I'm like, I can't figure out who they hate. It takes me to go back and read it again to figure out who it is they're hating.
Please tell me who you hate.
They're saying some things, and I don't understand. Like, I'm a childless cat lady. And so is that a compliment? Because when I see that, I'm taking it as a compliment. So I think that you know what I mean? It's gotten so extreme, and people are so angry. Sometimes I can't even tell what side they're on. I just know they're angry. So I think we've gotten into almost like a frenzy.
I know, right? How do you think it will end?
Our frenzy with humans?
Yeah, the earth.
I think it will pass. I think that sometimes the earth, just like a volcano, sometimes there's an eruption and then it settles down. And if you look at history, you see various eruptions in various places. And then for whatever reason, eventually, like all volcanoes, it burns itself out, or forest fire burns itself out. And I think this will burn itself out in this country. I don't think we're always going to be like this, but we're sure trying real hard to hate each other right now. And it's on both sides. And I hate to say that, but it is, because how do I say this without being political? I think that the answer is not to hate everybody who's not like you. Some folks make it very difficult not to be angry, but you're not going to get anywhere by hating. And if you're putting up a bunch of inflammatory hate posts, you're just martyring those people or that person or whoever it is you don't like. So you're just creating sympathy for them. The best thing to do is to post about what you love, and post about who you believe in, post about who you're voting for and who you think is great and what spiritual people you like, and not spend so much time posting about what you hate. Because people pretty much figure out what you're not into when you're posting about what you are into.
Yeah, I don't know if you read the Michelle Obama's book, but there, you know, when she talks about, you know, when they go low, we go high. It's not always easy to do.
No. What's that poster, right? I meditate, I do yoga, and I still want to kick someone. I mean, it's, you know what I mean? It's hard sometimes, even as spiritual as you think you are. It's hard sometimes not to get angry. But I also know from dealing with a lot of folks and helping a lot of people who've suffered at the hands of narcissists, that there are some people who don't know the difference in good attention and bad attention. They only know attention. So if you're
Yeah.
hating on them, you're just giving them attention, and
Yeah,
just
exactly.
starve them out. Think about something you like and post about that. I think we've seen that in the last few political elections. We've seen people gaining popularity through people's hate, because it's
Right.
just attention, 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 attention. And all anybody's hearing is that name over and over again. And then people are
Right.
being influenced by that.
I mean, I do find it funny when the first response, I won't name names, but the first response to what someone says is that that's a really nasty question.
Of course. Right. Right.
That's nasty.
Right. Exactly. People who are dealing out the nastiness are always the people calling everyone else a snowflake. It's like when, when
Right.
it's like dealing with narcissists, right?
Mhm.
I know you are, but what am I? They can be as mean as they want to you, but if you say anything to
Mhm.
them, they're just shocked at your cruelty. So I
Mhm.
think you have to kind of think of that on a large scale when you're thinking about public figures. Sometimes they're just damaged people playing in a
Right.
large arena, right?
Yeah, I think I have a feeling that maybe the more damaged you are, the better you survive in that arena,
I'm sure. Yeah.
and that maybe you have to have a huge dose of narcissism to do that job.
Yes.
You know.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. And I think at some point for me, I don't know about for you, at some point for me, I just stepped away from it. I stepped away from trying to play in that arena and
Mhm.
trying to get ahead amongst folks like that, and just
Right.
decided where I was best needed was to come out of it and go in from a different angle
Mhm.
of just positivity and helping people.
Yeah, I just don't know enough. I mean, I could have the carpet ripped from under me any second, because I don't have sufficient knowledge really. But I just know when you feel like there's kindness and when there isn't kindness, and and then there are some people who are not particularly kind, but they're really good at what they do.
Yeah.
Or them, so as you can
Yeah.
tell, I don't feel qualified really.
Yeah, I understand. I was just talking to a friend of mine about that this morning, because we were having a discussion about, she's a professional sound woman, and we were talking about the vibes that she gets off people at conferences when she has to mic them. Because when you have
Right.
to mic somebody, you're like all up in their business, right? You got to get up in their
Right.
face
Yeah.
and put the mic and run the thing through their shirt and out the back, and you're getting a good sense of them. And she was talking about how it's interesting to her when she was talking about a particular actor that she read an article from an ex-wife or something, and she said something about him. And she was talking about how she did his mic, and she felt that very strange vibe from him. And she was trying to like chat him up and be friendly and tell him she liked his work, and she was just getting kind of nothing. And we were talking about how you can love someone's art,
Right.
even though they're not a particularly good person.
Right.
And how you deal with that. And I always take that to the spiritual world, because I mean, I'm a naive person, I guess. Maybe I'm an Aries, we're a little naive. And when I first got into the spiritual world, I thought everyone was going to be so loving. I thought, oh God, this is going to be nothing like the entertainment business. Everybody's going to be so great. And then 2 weeks later, I was like, damn it, it's just like the entertainment business. And so, but sometimes I think like, wow, how could you get healing from that person who I know is not a great person, and you're feeling better? Well, it's the same way that we've all enjoyed projects from a lot of these people that now it's come to light they weren't good people, but we love their movies and their TV shows and their songs. And you have to separate, I think, sometimes the what they're giving from who they are.
Yeah.
So you don't wind up getting upset at yourself like, gosh, why didn't I know that guy masturbated in plants or whatever, but I really liked the stuff. How come I didn't know?
Right.
And I think it's the same
Right.
thing with politicians. You have to pick somebody out that resonates with you, hopefully based on policies. And
Right.
if later in life you find out, something about them wasn't great, you have to be happy with the decision that you made, and you know, and be happy for the decision, for how you voted, and or what movie you choose to watch, or what music you listen to. We can't beat ourselves up because people sometimes are very different than what they project.
Right. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, being kind to ourselves is incredibly helpful, I think. And I think about all the actors that we know that have been, you know, just behaved so badly.
Yes.
But they're so talented, like you're saying.
Yeah. And then what
You know.
do? You tell yourself you didn't enjoy that film? I mean, but you did.
Yeah.
And
right.
that's okay that you did, because,
right.
you know, people are always like, oh, that president did this cheating thing. It's like, are you kidding me? If we look back at every president, going all the way back to old George, we probably would find out that a great many of them had mistresses and did stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The difference is that now we're in everybody's business and we know everything everybody does.
Yeah. I mean, in France, it's not a big deal. You know,
right.
It's becoming more of a big deal, I think. I mean, it's interesting that Macron, he's married to a woman who's quite a lot older than him.
Right. His teacher.
And oh, that's right, his teacher.
He's his junior high teacher, right? His 8th grade or 7th grade teacher or something.
Oh, she did well. She did well.
Yeah, she
spotted him.
She scored. She's a good teacher.
Was she his careers teacher? I know where you should go, my son.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, exactly. There's a plan for you.
Amazing.
You need to be you need to be president, and you need a wife. And I can help you with both.
I'm right here.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, but isn't that sort of, I thought about that a lot when I was watching the opening ceremonies for the Paris Olympics, because I'm kind of an Olympics person. I love the Olympics.
Right.
And so I almost said whore, and then I thought I shouldn't really say whore on my show, but I just did. I think a lot of Americans watched that and probably had no idea what was going on.
Yeah.
But for me, it was so very French, and I thought it was hysterical. But I think a lot of, like, you know, middle American people were probably like, what is happening right now?
Yeah. I mean, I loved it, but I thought, oh gosh, this is going to offend a couple of people.
Yes. And it was nothing except people just being themselves. And there was nothing like mean or nasty in it. It was
right.
just,
but then there was the painting that was reenacted by the drag queens.
Sure.
That people thought was the Last Supper, but it wasn't.
Right. I know. Yeah. But then that's just reading into something what isn't even there.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there's this idea, right? And you come from more of a Christian background than I do. This idea that Jesus hated gay people.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, how many people were probably even, you know, how many gay people did he probably know in the Jewish community at that time? And secondly, Christ was innovative. I mean, he was training a woman to be a rabbi. Like, he was not a hater. But
no, I didn't feel that Jesus had anything particularly against the homosexuals.
No.
Because of the way he treated the prostitutes, because of the way he threw the tables over, and when the money changes, and he supported the poor and so on. But the church, however, did have something against homosexuals.
Right. So you see a bunch of drag queens having a party. If you see the Last Supper in that, that's kind of a new problem.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think the word, I haven't got the facts of this, but the word homosexual didn't come into the Bible till much later.
Right.
It wasn't there to start with. But then we humans did a good job of creating a problem.
Exactly. Is that one of the little gifts we got from Constantine? Was that?
I think so, yeah.
A lot of nice gifts from Constantine.
Yeah, I think so.
He just took out whatever books he didn't like and put whatever in he wanted.
Yeah, there's a speech in The West Wing, I think, where who's the lead actor, the guy that played the president?
Martin Sheen?
Yeah, he just makes this extraordinary speech. I don't know if you ever saw it, where he just goes through the list of the things that that can happen to people, the punishments, like, the things like climbing a cherry tree, or just silly things that that in the Old Testament that people got their knickers in a twist about. Exactly.
Good old Leviticus.
But Anyway, it's a funny
Fantastic.
world, isn't it?
So tell me about your show, when it's going to be, how people can get tickets. I know I have to let you go in a couple of minutes, and I want to make sure we talk a little bit about the show.
Appreciate it. 22nd of September in at the Santa Monica Playhouse. Love that place. Such a great theater.
Yes.
It's at 5 p.m. If you come early, like come a quarter of an hour early, you'll get a free drink, and you get to meet people and say hi. So that's the Santa Monica show, which is the one really that is probably most people will know about. And then, by the way, the book, here's the book. Just doing a little plug for the book, has come out now on. It's come out now on Audible, which is great.
Oh, wonderful!
Yeah. So, but then I go to Provincetown in October, 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th of October.
Beautiful.
In Provincetown, and then I go to Ithaca to the Kitchen Theatre, which I'm very excited about. Nice. October 27th and 28th.
That's fantastic. So you're on tour. So you're really feeling the performing right now. I'm loving that came back for you.
I'm very happy. Do you know one of my favorite things is booking the flights?
Oh,
I love finding the flights.
Okay.
And saying, oh, I wonder which plane I'll get on. Where shall I sit? And it's just all part of the excitement of touring.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. How do you take books with you?
Do you mean to do on the plane? Things to do on the plane?
No. I mean your books to sign and.
Oh yeah, I shipped them there ahead of time. Okay. And I'll have some at the Santa Monica Playhouse. I envision
you dragging a rolling suitcase full of books, so I'm glad you spared that.
Yeah, no, I can just order them on Amazon and get them sent. So.
It's amazing. I'm so proud of you, my friend. First, to call you my friend because you're so wonderful, but also just all the things you've done with this beautiful show. Because I think we met sort of right at the beginning.
Yeah, right.
And your first set of shows.
Yeah, my director Wendy Hammers introduced us.
Old friend of mine. Yes.
Yeah, she did a great job.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for being here. Where can people find you online, honey?
They can find me on Facebook, A Very British Lesbian, or Fiona Goodwin. Instagram, Very British Lesbian. And I've got to get going on TikTok again, or just my website, FionaGoodwin.com.
Beautiful. Thank you for being here. The wonderful Fiona Goodwin, everybody. Thank you for being here, my friend.
Thank you so much.
TV for having us. Looking forward to having Fiona back after her tour. And thank you to my friend, Tony Sweet, the owner and operator of Parapod TV, for allowing us to be part of your television family. And to my engineer and producer, Emery, you are the wind beneath my wings, my friend. It's wonderful to do the show with you every week. You can find me everywhere at SheenaMetalSpiritual.com. That's my website. I'm all over social media at Sheena Metal. That's Facebook, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, and X, which is formerly Twitter. Also, if you want to stay in touch, the easiest way, send me a text message, 818-437-0886. That's this phone right here. And I promise to get right back to you. That's my private cell. And yes, I do give it out on the internet because I'm crazy. It's the Sheena Metal Experience on Parapod TV. Until I see you next time, seek peace, live in love, lead with kindness, embrace unity, always work to raise your vibration, and know that you are loved and you are loved and you're so loved by me. Stay beautiful. Namaste. Stay sweet. I'll see you next week, next Wednesday at 3 o'clock Pacific time. I love you all.